Right, before we get stuck into what might be one of the most uncomfortable public moments King Charles has faced, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. Then smash that notifications bell. UK Informate is bringing you the raw, unfiltered truth about what is really happening with the royals. And trust me, you do not want to miss a single update. So imagine this. You are King Charles. You have finally got the job you have waited 70 years for. You are on a royal walkabout in Staffordshire doing the traditional meet and greet with well-wishers outside Lichfield Cathedral, and suddenly someone in the crowd starts absolutely grilling you about your brother's connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Not politely, not subtly, just shouting questions like, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? And have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? Whilst cameras roll and the entire internet watches. What do? Well, if you are Charles, you completely ignore the questions and get escorted away as quickly as humanly possible. And honestly, that silence speaks absolutely volumes about how the monarchy is handling this disaster. Let us rewind for a moment and talk about how we even got here, because the Prince Andrew scandal is not exactly breaking news. He was demoted as a working royal back in 2022 by Queen Elizabeth, his own mother, which tells you everything about how serious this situation had become. Before that, his rumored relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein had already dominated headlines for years. So whilst Andrew is now facing consequences, he genuinely got away with an enormous amount for a very long time, and his family absolutely enabled that. The institution protected him. The palace machinery shielded him. And now people are rightly asking whether King Charles is continuing that pattern of protection, and they are asking it loudly, publicly, and in extremely uncomfortable ways. The heckler in Staffordshire did not just ask one question and stop. They kept going. Should MPs be allowed to debate the royals in the House of Commons? It is a genuinely brilliant question because it cuts straight to the heart of royal accountability. Can Parliament actually scrutinize the royal family? Should they be allowed to? And if not, what does that say about the institution's willingness to be held to account? Charles's response, which was to say absolutely nothing and quickly leave, suggests the palace would very much prefer these questions remain unasked and unanswered. Thank you very much. But here's where things get properly interesting. Just days before this awkward public confrontation, Andrew announced he would no longer be using his titles and honors. Buckingham Palace released a statement on October 17th where Andrew claimed that after discussions with the king and his immediate and wider family, they concluded that the continued accusations were distracting from the work of the monarchy. He said he was putting duty to family and country first, which is rich coming from someone whose actions have done more damage to the royal reputation than possibly anyone else in recent history. Andrew claimed this was his decision, framed as noble self-sacrifice. But according to multiple reports, this was absolutely not voluntary. This was Charles finally reaching breaking point. The Times reported that the relationship between the brothers had reached a tipping point, with Charles seriously considering stripping Andrew of his title altogether. Sources told Radar Online that Charles had essentially had enough, that he was at the end of his rope, and that his words about Andrew were reportedly, just pee off, which is genuinely the most relatable thing Charles has probably ever said. Can you imagine being so exasperated with your sibling that even as King of England, you resort to telling them to bog off? That is not diplomatic palace language. That is genuine, visceral frustration from someone who is absolutely done with the nonsense. A senior palace source described Charles as looking absolutely exhausted and wanting Andrew to stop hiding behind his remaining titles and quietly remove himself from public life for good. The word choice there is crucial. Hiding behind suggests the palace believes Andrew has been using his royal status as a shield against accountability. By giving up his titles, Andrew loses that protective cover, at least symbolically. But does it actually change anything material about his situation? Not really. He still lives at Royal Lodge. He is still financially supported. He is still Andrew, Duke of York in everyone's minds, titles or not. And this brings us to the Royal Lodge situation, which has become its own separate nightmare. Both Charles and William reportedly want Andrew out of that 30-room Windsor mansion where he has been paying peppercorn rent for 2 decades. But Andrew is apparently demanding that he and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson be provided with 2 separate homes if he is forced to leave. The sheer audacity of negotiating your eviction by demanding double the accommodation is genuinely staggering. It is like being fired from a job and responding by asking for 2 redundancy packages. The whole thing has apparently ground to a standstill because Andrew refuses to budge without getting what he wants, and Charles is stuck between wanting his brother gone and not being able to physically drag him out. So what are the actual consequences Andrew is facing? He has given up titles he was not using anyway. He has reportedly not been invited to spend Christmas at Sandringham, which means missing one family dinner. That is it. That is the punishment for decades of scandals, association with a convicted sex offender, a disastrous Newsnight interview, and bringing the monarchy into international disrepute. When you lay it out like that, you can absolutely see why people are accusing the institution of still protecting him. This is why that heckler's questions in Staffordshire cut so deep. They are not asking about ancient history. They are asking whether Charles, right now, as king, is still covering for his brother. They are asking whether Parliament should be allowed to debate royal conduct openly. These are fundamental questions about power, accountability, and whether the monarchy operates above the law or within it. And Charles's response, complete silence followed by a hasty exit, does not exactly inspire confidence that transparency is a priority. The timing of all this could not be worse for Charles. He is battling cancer. He is trying to modernize the monarchy. He is attempting to restore public trust after years of scandals involving multiple family members. And now he is being publicly accused of covering up for Andrew whilst cameras record his non-response for social media dissection. What makes this particularly uncomfortable is that Andrew still lives in extremely close proximity to other royals at Windsor Great Park. He is not tucked away somewhere remote. He is right there, a constant reminder of the scandal, a living embodiment of the institution's failure to properly address wrongdoing. The broader question here is whether anything will genuinely change. Andrew has given up titles, but he still has his home, his lifestyle, and his apparent ability to negotiate terms with the king. And when Charles is publicly confronted about covering up for his brother, his response is silence. Thanks ever so much for watching, everyone. We will catch you in the next one.